Welcome to the Palpagos Islands, where mysterious and powerful creatures dominate the land, sea, and sky with their mastery of the elements. You can capture these pals, then pet them before commanding them to fight or work for you. Craft powerful weapons and build your team before riding your pal into the great unknown to defeat faction leaders and discover the mystery behind Palworld. Before I can be the very best, like no one ever was, I must look absolutely gorgeous. With my beefy arms and majestic thighs, I'm ready to catch them all. 3 cute monsters look at me curiously as I wake up at a beach, then immediately run away. I find a tablet with a mysterious message about a tree, then pick it up. Suddenly, it's the middle of the night and I'm freezing to death. Luckily, there's a fluffy monster nearby that I can smack with my fists. After an intense battle, I eventually manage to knock it out. As the temperature stabilizes, I start automatically healing from the damage I took. While recovering, I take a look at my technologies and building options. Afterwards, I build a workbench, then read the crafting recipes for pal spheres and basic tools. I check on the fainted pal on the ground and learn from my pal deck that its name is Kataiva. I also pass by some land balls before collecting wood and punching down trees. A Hookrides walks by and I can't help but attack it, but then I realize it's level 6 and have to run from its wind attacks. After picking up more wood, I level up, then return to my workbench to craft a stone pickaxe and a club. I test out my club on a Daydream, which immediately also angers their friend. They start shooting homing balls at me, but I dodge most of them, then keep smacking the Daydream. Luckily, the Daydream angered a nearby landball who immediately rams into it, winning me the fight. I finish off the weakened landball too, earning some mutton. I hunt down the other Daydream and beat it with my club, but then this one accidentally hits a landball. The angered landball rams into the Daydream before I finish off the flying pal, and I'm rewarded with its poison glands. Next, I mine a big rock for stone, along with some palladium fragments and ore. I then smack more landballs for mutton and wool before heading back to the workbench. I craft an axe, torch, and a pal sphere, then start chopping a tree for more wood. I use the wood to build a campfire, then cook some lamball kebabs before eating some to satisfy my hunger. Since the workstation is cheap and I want it to be closer, I just build another one by the campfire. After reaching level 4, I find an expedition survivor and talk to him. He tells me that the pals here ate all his friends, then gives me some wood to help with my survival. I thank him by smacking him, then panic since that makes me a criminal. Thankfully, when I go back, he calmly tells me about pal spheres that I can use to capture pals. I head out to find a pal to enslave while gathering berries and mining palladium fragments on the way. I find a chickpea nearby and smack it until its HP is low, then throw my pal sphere. Now that it's captured, I can let it out to walk with me. Unfortunately, its health is still low, so I suck it back into the pal sphere for it to recover. I try getting it to craft pal spheres for me, but it instead immediately runs off to fight something. Since it wanted to fight something so badly, I keep throwing it at a Mammoris until it starts fighting it. After just a few seconds, the Mammoris destroys my pal, and now I have to run for my life. Whilst heading back to base, I capture a landball as a new companion. I then place and build the pal box before putting my crushed chickpea inside to discover that she'll revive in 10 minutes. Afterwards, I study the technology for cloth and a bed, then unlock the recipes for armor and more weapons before crafting some cloth and using it to make a cloth outfit that I immediately wear. Next, I build a repair bench that I use to fix my tools. Suddenly, a wandering merchant walks into my base, but unfortunately I have no gold to trade. I chop some more wood instead and try to build a bed, but I'll have to make some shelter first. I unlock the technology for a wooden construction set, then place down a floor while the chunky Mammoris gets in the way. After finishing the walls and roof, I'm finally able to place and build my bed inside. I take the healed chickpea and lamball out of the pal box, then craft a storage chest and put most of my materials inside. I spend the upgrades for my level ups to increase my carry weight, then craft a spear to replace my club. After gathering more materials, I craft a shield, a bow, and some arrows. After showing off my magnificent thick dodges, I use the bow to annihilate the weak monsters nearby. I go back to craft a parachute to see if it can handle my weight, and somehow the parachute actually manages to carry my majestic thighs. I also make a bunch of pal spheres, then end the night in my comfy bed. The next day, I poke a couple of landballs with my spear, then suck them into my balls. Next, I capture more chickpeas, which levels me up. I steal an egg from another chickpea, then make my landball fight it for even more food. I take the loot back to base, then carry my chickpea around to find a job for it to do. There doesn't seem to be any work the chickpea can do, so I give them loving pets. After assigning my landball to the base, I suddenly see them adorably carrying wood to my chest. So I reward them with affectionate pets too, then upgrade my base so more pals can work. Since pals get stressed without shelter, I place down a straw bed. again. Immediately, the land balls start helping me build and don't even need my help to finish. I also put down a feed box so they'll have food. With that done, I leave my base again to enslave more pals. The Kativas run away from me, so I instead catch more land balls. At a nearby pond, I find a green statue which turns out to be an effigy to offer up later. While I'm mining Paldium fragments, I let my Chickpea destroy a low-level Kativa. I then shoot a Mammoth for only 1 damage and immediately regret angering it. While running away, I find a castaway's journal near the river. The writer accidentally discovered that Palspheres capture and control the pals. Returning home, I upgrade my base again, then put another land ball to work. They help me craft more Palspheres, but I quickly run out of stone. After mining some stone, I look out beyond the island and see some towers and a massive tree in the distance. With that, I end the day, then start a Palsphere crafting project for my land ball to complete. I pet the land ball, then capture a 5th land ball, which advances my missions. After a bit more work, I unlock the stone pit, logging site, and pal gear workbench. I place down the logging site and stone pit, then let my pals build it. Now my pals can work at those sites to produce wood and stone. Then I place down a berry plantation too, which unlocks a base upgrade. This lets me put a 5th pal to work, and I select a Chickpea. I seed and water the field myself since none of my pals are able to plant or water. Next, I build the pal gear workbench. After another base upgrade, the plantation has grown some berries and the Chickpea finally gets to work by harvesting. I head out to explore and catch some more pals. While exploring, I find a Dinossum, but it's level 16, so I send out my Chickpea to help me. Sadly, the Dinossum quickly destroys my Chickpea along with my entire shield. I stay back and fire arrows, but eventually run out, so I send out my land ball while carefully poking with my spear. Another attack takes out my shield and sets me on fire, which almost kills me, so I have to run for my life. It's already night once I get back to base, and now I have to heal my pals and repair my armor. I learned my lesson and craft many more arrows before going out to hunt again. New pals come out at night, so I find and capture some daydreams, which apparently trap people in happy comas until they pass away. Back at base, I unlock the bat and craft one right away to replace the spear, then spend my level up point in attack. I repair all my weapons and tools, then craft a lot more arrows to challenge the Dinossum again. I throw out my Chickpea to distract the Dinossum while I shoot, but the Dinossum still hits me with a ranged slice, destroying my shield. The Dinossum defeats my Chickpea, so I throw out a land ball while gracefully dodging and shooting. At very low health, I do my best to dodge and eventually get it low enough to throw a ball, but even then, it breaks free. I bring its HP down even lower and just barely survive another hit before throwing another Palsphere. This time, the chance is 20%, but the number suddenly jumps higher and higher before catching the Dinossum. I take it home and am super excited to add a high-level pal to my team, but then I realize that its high level gets lowered to my level, so I have it plant seeds at the berry plantation instead. During the night, I head out again and catch Hookrates to expand my pal deck and level up. Afterwards, I head back to base and go to sleep. The next morning, I unlock the hot springs building and also learn the incubator and crusher recipes. I start building the crusher first, then the egg incubator. One of my land balls seems a bit confused about carrying wood, so I help them out. Meanwhile, my Dinossum gets to work chopping trees whilst I build another berry plantation, then cook some of the berries. I mine some stone, then return to base to drop off my loot. Afterwards, my Kativa gets sick and is depressed because of neglect. I give it some loving pets before sending it back to work. Then I leave to capture some land balls near my base until I have 10, which gives me an EXP bonus. Once I'm back home, I realize that the feed box is completely empty, so I quickly shove baked berries inside for my starving pals to devour while I water the fields. That night, I leave my base to surprise and catch a Chickpea and some Hookrates. I find a new pal, an Eikthyr, and challenge it with the help of my land ball, then capture it. I also find some Cremis nearby, but they are much easier to catch. Whilst chasing a Pangolin, I see even more new pals, but I chase down the Pangolin first and capture them. Next, I snipe a Gumas who then attacks me with mud. I smack it until it submits to my ball. Thanks to all that XP, I can now afford new technologies. First, I craft a new bow that can shoot 3 shots at once. Since my crafting speed is so slow, I invest my stat points into work speed to speed it up. Next, I grill some Chickpeas and craft more Palspheres. Lastly, I enslave the Pangolin to water the berries and the Eikthyr to chop trees. Since the Dinossum plants, the Pangolin waters, and the Kativas gather, my pals should be able to grow their own food now. To keep them fed till the next harvest, I put some berries into the feed box before leaving leaving for another adventure. A bit further out, I find a new fiery fox pal called Fox Sparks. They're the first fire pal I found, so I catch both of them and collect their flame organs. I also catch another pangolin, which levels me up. Then I check my tech tree to find a meat cleaver, which lets me butcher my own pals. From here, I head closer to the shore and find a statue similar to the one near my base, which turns out to be a fast travel point. I also find a purple chest nearby with gold, pal spheres, and a mega sphere inside. I talk to a skilled islander nearby and she advises me to collect 10 pals for an XP bonus, then gives me 5 paldium fragments. I pick up another effigy, then find another one of the castaways logs. Apparently he noticed an empty space on the world map and guessed that there's an island there before setting sail for this mysterious island. I head through a ravine and notice that I'm now very close to the tower for my mission. While I'm here, I shoot at a flying pal, the Nightwing. After almost accidentally killing it, I managed to capture it just in time, only to learn that they kidnap and fatten pal babies to later eat them. I find another Eikthyr deer nearby and easily catch them. Here, I also find my first monster egg and take it with me. There's another fast travel station near the Rain Syndicate Tower, so I activate it before entering the tower. Apparently, I only have 10 minutes to beat the boss, but I decide to challenge it anyway. Inside the tower, a mysterious lady approaches me and challenges me with her pal. It turns out her name is Zoe, and her pal is called Grisbold. I send out my Hookrates and start attacking with my bow. And that's when I realize this boss has a whopping 30,000 health! It fires electric balls at me and leaps with charged claws. While my Lambolt charges at it, the Grisbold somehow gets stuck behind a pillar, leaving it vulnerable to my attacks. But I'm still not doing enough damage. I pull out my Daydream to poison and deal better damage, then try to melee the boss. I manage to avoid a charged attack behind a pillar, but eventually get overwhelmed by the claw jumps and lose the battle. Back at base, I decide to prepare better for next time. I put the egg in the incubator, but it seems a little cold, so I build several campfires nearby to warm it up. Next, I use the flame organs that I collected to build a primitive furnace. I try making some ingots, but the furnace requires kindling. Meanwhile, the egg is already hatching and another Eikthyr deer comes out. I sleep, then wake up to see a random pile of stones near the farms that my pals haven't moved into storage chests. So I put a storage chest right next to the fields to make it easier to move and store the wood and stone. I add the Eikthyr deer, Nightwing, and Pangolin to my team, then realize that my Fox Sparks kindled the furnace to refine the ingots. After mining more ore and producing a lot of ingots at the furnace, I suddenly get raided by man-eating wild pals. I quickly build an alarm bell and ring it, then take out my weapons to fight. I manage to capture a Lee Spunk, but the rest of the attackers die. After defeating the raid, I get some keys as a reward. I put the Lee Spunk in my team, then craft some nails so I can build a high-quality workbench. Since it's a direct upgrade to my old workbench, I disassemble my starter workbench and construct the better one. With the high-quality workbench, I'm able to craft pelt armor that I immediately wear, along with metal tools. Afterwards, I construct a medieval medicine workbench, which lets me craft all kinds of pal medicines. I make some low-grade medical supplies, then give it to a sick Kativa. Unfortunately, the Kativa is still depressed, so I put them in the pal box. I head out to mine more ores and paldium fragments, then notice a chest. I open it with my copper key to receive coins, arrows, and a cloth outfit schematic. Finally, I end the day, then head to my Pallier workbench to craft an Eikthyr deer saddle. I immediately try out mounting and charge into a Kativa. Power shotting a Lamball levels me up, and I invest the point in work speed. I learn some new technologies, then craft a crossbow and a metal spear. With my new weapons, I fast travel back to the tower. I find some syndicate thugs nearby fighting a Malpaca and a Chickapee in their base. After damaging a thug, I try throwing a sphere at them and actually capture them, even though it's inhumane. Afterwards, I try shooting pals with my crossbow while mounted and easily slaughter them, earning lots of pal fluids. I then return to the thug hideout and rescue a captured Swee. Near the hideout, I find another Malpaca which I try to capture, but it escapes my sphere. But with another try, I'm able to catch it. I fast travel back to base with the pal fluid so I can finally build a hot tub. This lets me upgrade my base, so I assign a Lamball to work, which lets me upgrade my base yet again. For the next upgrade, I have to build an icebox and a sphere workbench, but I don't have the materials, so I leave to gather them. With my pockets filled with ore, I'm too heavy to ride my pal, so I first have to drop some loot, then spam the deer's charge to make it back home. Back at base, I realize that I actually have the syndicate gunner in my pal box. I send him out, then realize that he's genuinely my slave now. Afterwards, I pet my human slave by rubbing his kneecaps, then spin dance before stuffing him back into my pal box. The next day, I put the Swee to work and build a cooler box. This lets me upgrade my base again before giving me new tasks to complete. I craft a Fox Sparks harness, then discover more interesting recipes to unlock later, like the Pangolit's rocket launcher. After trying my Lee Spunk's ability to detect hidden dungeons, I activate my Foxpark's harness skill, which lets me use them as a flamethrower. I then go for a ride and capture another Dinosaur with my Lease Punk. After returning to base, I craft a collar for my Daydream, which lets it follow me around and attack even while I have another pal out. Feeling much stronger, I start riding back to the boss tower. Past the ravine, I find a pack of dire howls hunting and start shooting them. I throw out some spheres and eventually manage to capture some of them. After gathering a few mushrooms, I ride through some arches and reach the tower again. I take out my Nightwing for the start and challenge Zoe to a rematch. I carefully dodge several attacks before hiding behind a pillar to avoid a charged laser. While my Nightwing distracts the Grisbolt, I manage to get good damage in with my crossbow. Not much later, I activate my Foxpark's flamethrower, which melts down the Grisbolt's health until the skill goes on cooldown. Thanks to the burn damage, the boss's health keeps trickling down while I impale them with crossbow bolts again and again. The angry Grisbolt charges and slashes at me, but I manage to dodge most of their attacks. Finally, I reactivate my Foxpark's flamethrower and finish off the boss to earn my revenge. This rewards me with a lot of XP along with a new fast travel point. From the tower's top, I savor the view and can even see the tree in the background. Thanks to 5 ancient technology points that I also earned, I'm able to unlock some new special tech. Back home, I increase my work speed, and after frying some eggs, another raid attacks my base. I welcome them with my flamethrower, then finish off the rest with my metal spear. With the raid defeated, I head out to capture a few more of the local pals, but now it's hard not to accidentally kill the pals before I can capture them. I still try to catch 10 of each species and manage to finish my collection of 10 chickapees. I ride back to base and unlock a few more recipes. First, I craft 10 pieces of cloth in order to make a Nightwing saddle. I try the saddle right away, letting me fly up high in the sky. The Nightwing is a bit slow, but it lets me attack while flying. Then I head out to mine more ore and stash it all away at base. To make ingot production a bit faster, I craft a second furnace, then place down a wheat plantation. Then I construct a mill, which can turn the wheat into flour. I also craft a small feed bag, which unlocks an inventory slot to automatically eat from when my pals and I get hungry. I end the night, then realize that I didn't have enough beds built, so I fix this right away. Next, I decide to build one of the ancient technologies, the Statue of Power, but I don't have enough Palladium fragments. While mining for Palladium, I discover another chest that I can unlock with the bronze key. Opening it rewards me with some gold, along with a schematic for a tropical outfit. Back at base, I build this statue, then make soul offerings to enhance my pals' stats. I also offer a lift mug effigy to enhance my capture power. Afterwards, I construct a Palison's condenser. I put my Daydream inside, then realize that I can sacrifice 8 other Daydreams to raise the stats of the first one. I decide to give it a try once I've captured enough. I teleport to the tower area, then start riding around to fight and capture some pals. After several captures, I earn enough XP for a level up and new technologies. I then go back to base and build a cooking pot before leveling my work speed even further. During the night, I go out to hunt more pals when suddenly I hear sparkling noises and follow them to find a shiny Hoocrates in the dark. I attack carefully in order to not accidentally kill it, then throw a ball and capture the rare pal. Sadly, my pals slaughter 2 Daydreams before I can capture them, but then I find a Nox. Luckily, I actually managed to capture this pal, then catch several more Daydreams till I've completed 10 captures for the XP bonus. I put my level Daydream in the base slot of the pal condenser, then put 8 Daydreams inside and sacrifice them to improve the first one's stats. I also check my rare Hoocrates and find out that it has a fire attack. So I swap out my fiery fox parts with the Hoocrates, then start cooking some roast Eikthyr. I notice that one of my pals is starving, and after checking my base, I find my Foxparks somehow stuck underground. I place them in and out of the pal box to reset their position, then they immediately rush to eat. With that resolved, I leave to mine more ore. After teleporting back to the tower area, I notice a suspicious cave and enter inside to find a dungeon. Right away, I see a mouse and calamari to catch who are easy targets thanks to my rare Hoocrates' fire breath. I head deeper into the dungeon to find an area surrounded by water. I make my way through and find syndicate thugs there that I easily handle. I go back to the circular first room and try a different path. There, I find a fuddler that I catch before discovering some large rocks. The yellow one turns out to be sulfur while the black one is coal. I get interrupted by more syndicate thugs but easily defeat them. Back in the circular room again, I find 2 paths where I head left, leading to a sandy area with additional fuddlers and calamaris that I catch. I keep going that way until I enter a part of the cave with more mouse that I capture for another level up. I spend the new stat point to increase my carry weight, then defeat the thugs in this area too. I go back to the start of this cave and go into a partially flooded tunnel. From here, I reach a beautiful part of the cave with a tree growing inside next to a large level 10 Eikthyr. I challenge the boss and dodge his attacks well until I get ganked by his friend. With a well-aimed pal sphere, I manage to capture him, but then his friends charge in and take me out. I wake up back at base and check out the boss Eikthyr that I captured. I put the boss steer to work, then craft a Dinossum saddle. With this, I can now ride the Dinossum, which fights with dragon and grass attacks, but turns out to be much slower. I also try riding the dire howl, but since it doesn't have great attacks, I switch back to riding the boss Eikthyr. I put down a metal chest at base, then clean up my inventory to make space for future dungeon exploration. While I'm at it, I also craft the Pangolin rocket launcher. I pick a Pangolin as cannon fodder, then try shooting it at a land ball. It collides with a massive explosion and deals decent damage too. I put the traumatized Pangolin back into the PAL box, then assign a Calamari to work at my base. Afterwards, I fast travel back to the tower, then look for a new PAL that I saw on the map. First, I clear out the thug hideout again while capturing some Pangolins until I have 10. I explore the other path that leads away from the hideout, then find and capture a T-Fant. Then I head over a bridge and find a new boss PAL called Chillet. It's only level 11, so it doesn't take that many shots to get it low and into my ball whilst rewarding me with another ancient technology point. On the same hill, I capture another Eikthyr along with the Lift Monk, which is a new type of plant PAL. Nearby, I capture yet another plant PAL, the Capridy. Now that it's nighttime, I see some new PALs near the shore. I capture the Depresso, then surprise an Eikthyr and some sleeping PALs. With that, I reach level 21 and unlock the technologies for a musket and gunpowder. I capture more PALs, a Cremis and Nightwing. Then I mine some ore and head back to base to sleep and end the night. The next morning, I notice that the boss Chillet I caught has a passive that adds dragon damage to my attacks, so I add it to my team and name it Garo. Then I build a weapon workbench and use it to craft a grappling gun. After upgrading my base, I put the Depresso to work and build a new bed for it. I try out the grappling gun, then replace my Nightwing with Lee's Punk since the grapples might remove the need for flyers. Before heading out again, I start producing some charcoal and cook some food. Then I teleport to the tower area again and explore around to find a rush ore that I almost killed but managed to capture with a sliver of health. There's also a Fwack nearby that I chase around before noticing two Mammoths fighting each other. I move in closer, then wait patiently for them to get each other low. Unfortunately, my Eikthyr gets a little impatient and charges in before immediately dying. I start shooting the Mammoths, but eventually one of them changes its target and starts attacking me. I keep attacking until one of them is low, then throw my Gigapal sphere at it. The chance to capture is still way too low, and when the Mammoth breaks free, it gets killed by the other one. I then back up to a safer distance before shooting it down to only a sliver of health and throw a Gigasphere, but the Mammoth breaks free. I try again with the Megasphere and somehow succeed with a 3% chance to capture the Mammoth. I grab their loot, which turns out to be some high quality oil. Eventually night falls and I open a treasure chest nearby, then capture my first Sparket. I teleport back to base and realize that the Mammoth has level 2 skill in planting, mining, and logging, so I put it to work right away. The next morning, I craft the Chillet saddle and immediately switch from Eikthyr to now ride the Ice Dragon mount. Then I craft a musket for a huge damage upgrade and make some ammo to go with it. Afterwards, I head out to farm more ore and test my musket by headshotting a Kataiba for massive damage. After crafting a toolbox to boost my pal's work speed, I sleep through the night. The next day, I start by crafting some Gigaspheres, then fast travel back to the tower area. From here, I make it over the river by jumping off my Chillet and using the grappling gun. I notice a new biome on this side of the river with lots of red leaf trees growing. Getting closer, the building turns out to be a desolate church. I then activate the fast travel point and explore inside the church where I discover a chest and a statue of power. I follow the path from the church and spot an interesting looking gate in the distance. After jumping down the cliff, I find a Jolthog that I chase and enslave. Then I attack a Tansy who soon joins my PAL army as well. Nearby, I find an abandoned mine shaft. I head into the mine shaft and see that it leads to a cave with some barrels, guillotines, and other torture devices inside. There's a black marketeer as well who tells me that he buys and sells PALs, including forbidden ones. He's even selling PALs that I've never seen before. I check how much he'd buy my PALs for, then decide it's not worth it. After leaving the mine shaft, I head through a valley, then use my Nightwing to fly up a cliff, leading me to a cavern. I head inside and clear the dungeon by capturing a Fuddler and Daydream, then destroy a whole gang of Syndicate thugs. After locating the end of the dungeon, I reach the tree area again and find a level 10 Mal boss there. I capture it, then check out the back room to find 2 chests with skill fruits for Stone Blast and Fire Blast inside. After claiming my loot, I touch the purple crystal and it teleports me out of the dungeon. Now at night, one more captured rush ore allows me to level up so I can unlock new recipes. While exploring around, I happen to find some kind of village. After entering the small settlement, I talk to a researcher there who tells me about boss monsters that control the other pals around. Right next to him, the village chief tells me about the rain poaching gang and asks me if I can take them out for him. I activate the village's fast travel point, then spot a wandering merchant in a hut nearby. I sell my rubies to him before checking what he has to offer. I buy some electric organs, then teleport back to base. Here, I craft a mega shield and mega glider, then equip both. Next, I craft a stun baton which will make capturing easier but has lower damage than the spear. After mining for more ore, I craft a metal helmet and wear it. While more ores are being refined, I head back to the settlement. From here, I take off with my Nightwing and spot a new boss pal. It's a King P.A.K.A. together with a small herd of Melpacas. I shoot the minions first, then the Supreme Fluff Commander charges in. I shoot him in the head while riding as he chases me around. Alternating between gunshots and Garo's attacks, I slowly bring the King P.A.K.A. down to a capturable range. My pals almost kill him, but after throwing Gigaspheres, I manage to imprison the king. I check out his skills and learn that he can help me carry more by increasing my carry capacity. I head back to base and add the King P.A.K.A. to my team, then craft him a saddle. I now take him for a ride while including him in a Kataiva in my party for the nice increase in carrying capacity. Thanks to all the new iron ingots, I craft brand new metal armor and wear it. After preparing more ammo, I fast travel to the church area and find a lot of ore nodes right behind the building. After filling my pockets with ore, I drop it all off at base, then come back to the church before exploring the path leading up to a cliff. After sniping a thug in midair, I land in an open area. I capture a Dire Howl and Tansy, then reach level 24 and unlock new tech. Just a bit further ahead, I suddenly run into the very large gate. There's a bridge leading up to it and a fast travel point nearby, along with another Castaway's journal. He mentions another tower that he wanted to check out, but humans attacked him and his Lamball saved him. I then cross the bridge and ride through the gate. On the other side, I find people working for the protection of pals who immediately attack me. I kill them, then discover a new type of pal here. The Bristla quickly destroys my shield, but I still manage to capture it. From here, I reach the Moonless Shore. Together with more Bristlas, I find a Cinnamoth and fight them. They poison me, but that doesn't stop me from capturing one. I then take a grassy path and find more people for the protection of pals, ironically killing off some pals. In that area, I also find a Floppy and capture it, letting me reach level 25. I see a boss monster in the lake and immediately jump in to fight it. The Ozarobe attacks me back, so I try to lure it to the shore. From here, I can snipe the Ozarobe with my dragon and ice attacks and even manage to briefly freeze it. Once it gets low, it starts swimming away back to the middle of the lake. I chase after it, but swimming slowly drains my pal's stamina. And unfortunately, Garo drowns, but I manage to capture the boss anyway and make it back to shore alive. With my Chillet dead, I temporarily switch to my King P.A.K.A. mount for riding. In the nearby forest at night, I find a Robin Quill. I get it into my ball, but the pal breaks free, then my pals kill it before I can throw another one. Disappointed, I walk back over the bridge and fast travel back to base. While Garo recovers, I head to bed and end the day, then craft a makeshift handgun. I put the Ozarobe in my team and replace my musket with the new gun. Then I craft a saddle for the Ozarobe so we can easily swim wherever we want. I also craft some cloth and nails, then start replacing the pal beds with a fluffier version. With that done, I can upgrade my base, unlocking another slot for a pal to work. I add the Bristla and build it a bed right away. With that, I fast travel back to the settlement and follow a path with stairs up a hill. On the way, I find another effigy, then reach the top to discover a Relaxaurus hanging out. After carefully damaging it, I throw a spear and manage to quickly capture it. Victorious, I climb up one of the rocks and see the other towers again in the distance. I leave and cross a bridge which ends at a syndicate hideout. I destroy its thugs, then free a Ribbunny from the cage. A little further, I glide down to a new effigy, then further down into the valley. I follow the path until I reach a hanging bridge and look around to orient myself, then jump down to some castle wall ruins and activate a fast travel point. With that area explored, I teleport back to the bridge of the Twin Knights, then cross it and follow the path to a waterfall while dealing with some pal protectors on the way. After finding another Robin Quill who breaks out of my ball, I finally manage to capture it with the second pal sphere. Since it's night, I activate another fast travel point near some ancient ruins, then teleport back to base to sleep. Afterwards, I fast travel back to the ruins where I defeat more pal protectors and discover then capture a Gale Claw. Then I capture another Robin Quill near the ruins before finding even more pal protectors killing pals. Immediately I dive in and slaughter the humans and pals while nearly dying from the Cinnamoth's poison. Victorious, I keep exploring the ancient ritual site until I discover an area with a glowing circle on the ground. Nearby, I find a diary of Lily Everhart revealing that the Free Pal Alliance is supposed to protect pals, not eat, overwork, or abuse them. Since I've broken every commandment, I leave to check the glow on the ground, which turns out to be the entrance to a sealed realm. Suddenly, I'm teleported into a boss arena to battle the Lady of the Garden, Patalia. She attacks with bubbles, leaf discs, and a seed spray that binds me with vines and slows me. By keeping my distance, I eventually manage to damage her more and more until she's low enough where I throw a pal sphere and manage to capture her on my first try, leveling me up. Victorious, I return to the surface and level up work speed. With that done, I head back to base and build a ranch. I assign a Lamball there to make me wool, then construct a monitoring stand. But the Lamball doesn't seem to produce any wool, so I go kill some wild Lamballs for their wool instead. Back at base, I hatch an egg and a Grintail comes out. Then I visit the settlement's merchant and buy more wool and electric organs. With those organs, I build a power generator, then my Sparket suddenly starts charging it. Since I still need more wool, I slaughter several fluffy pals for their wool. After crafting all the cloth and nails needed, I replace replace all the old beds with fancy ones. Next, I build a sphere line factory which crafts balls faster but needs power, so I add a jolt hog to help charge the generator. After making some cement, I craft a couple of hyperspheres, gigaspheres, and megaspheres at the assembly line. Suddenly, I get raided by wild pals and rush out to battle them. But then they sneak around the upper side and get behind my base, immediately causing lots of damage. The level 37s are too strong and easily defeat me and my pals. Once I respawn, I see my house burning and throw out my King P.A.K.A., but he misses the enemy and destroys my home. With multiple shots, I damage an Incineram enough to try capturing it, but it keeps breaking out. After several attempts, I finally manage to capture one before they all run away. Once it's over, I assess the damage, then move several dropped items into a new metal chest. I put the enslaved Incineram to work, then upgrade my feed bag and rebuild my house. Next, I start blocking off the entrance stairway with defensive walls before upgrading my grappling gun. Finally, I rebuild my bed, then end the night and sleep. The next day, I build a mounted crossbow aimed at the base's entrance, then block off the upper path with defensive walls as well. I then use my monitoring stand to make my pals work super hard to quickly finish some tasks. Afterwards, I teleport back to the ancient ritual site, then fight and capture some Cinnamoths, Gill Claws, and Robin Quills. But while hunting for more Robin Quills, they suddenly surround me and burst Garo down, then finish me off. Back at base, I notice that my pals are depressed, then realize that I forgot to stop them from overworking. Immediately, I rush to treat my Kativa's work injury with some medical supplies. Afterwards, I craft a Mammoris saddle, then start the next day by building a silo to boost my pals' planting speed. Next, I ride Garo into battle and force another Mammoris to join my team, then use the saddle to ride it and smash some ore nodes with its raw power. The next morning, I craft a production line factory which lets me craft things even faster. Then I use my new recipes to build a brand new handgun. With all that done, I fast travel back to the path that seems to lead up to the big tree and catch a 10th Robin Quill to finish my collection. I then follow the path all the way up, where I find a cave entrance and also a fast travel point. After enjoying the view, I jump off the cliff to swim all the way to the other side. On that shore, I find a frozen egg and also a fast travel point on a completely new island. In a nearby forest, I find an effigy and a Raintrix. I see some high-level pangolins and attack them, but this alerts all the nearby pals. The bee guards charge at me and start flashing while rapidly beeping, but I jump far enough away to avoid their self-destruct. Somehow, I manage to survive their assault, but still get chased around by a high-level pangolin. I use my Nightwing to escape and fly up to another fast travel point, then travel back to my base. The next day, I travel back to the ancient ritual site to finish exploring. While following a road, I slaughter a bunch of pal protectors, then fly up a high cliff where I find a new boss pal. After I attack the Alpha Dren, it immediately charges at me. I manage to avoid its breath attack, but then 3 fireballs hit me, immediately destroying my shield. While keeping my distance to recover my shield, I land hit after hit and quickly shoot down, interrupting Cinnamoths. Thankfully, my Daydream and Chillet keep pushing the Alpha Dren back to stop its attacks until it's damaged enough to capture. Victorious, I craft an Alpha Dren saddle and try flying around with it, then test the pal's abilities. Afterwards, I craft a Giga Shield and visit the settlement merchant to sell the old one. I fast travel back to Hypocrite Hill and spot a tower in the distance, then decide to head towards it. Once I jump down from the hills, I reach a biome that looks like some kind of swamp. I catch some gobfins, then make my way across the water to reach the moonless shore. Night falls, then I find and mine a sulfur rock. Close by, I spot a loop moon and catch it despite the low catch chance, then also capture a nearby Catris. While exploring in the dark night, I suddenly see a bright glowing pal in the air. I fly up and manage to catch the colorful Hell Zephyr. With the sun slowly rising, I discover a new pal close by, the Mossanda. The green bears stand no chance against my dragon attacks though, so I easily enslave them. I follow the path and find a camp of annoying pal protectors that I slaughter before freeing a Mossanda Lux from their cage. A gory rat casually walks by, so I forcefully add it to my collection right away. I now reach the Verdant Brook and fly on Elphadran's back to make it over the slopes leading up. After riding down a deep valley with lots of trees, I find a fast travel point and a sealed realm. I teleport back to base, then make a bunch of cement and bread before crafting an upgraded hot spring for my pals to relax. Then another raid attacks my base. This time it's pal protector extremists, but they immediately get stuck on my walls and are easily annihilated by Garo's dragon cannon. Once work at base is done, I fast travel back to the Verdant Brook and approach the glowing sealed realm. I head inside and attack the Valet, who immediately retaliates with poison and tornadoes. I manage to burn it with the dragon cannon while keeping my distance as it's trying to catch up to me. Suddenly, it launches seeds at me which explode and deal lots of damage. Once it's almost dead, I throw a pal sphere and manage to capture the Valet. Victorious, I go back to base and immediately find my Mossanda majestically T-posing towards the feed box. Then I travel back to Verdant Brook and continue exploring the area. I discover a beautiful mountain lake, then attack a group of bee guards and Elizabeth. One of the bee guards charges into me and explodes, hurting my chillet, but at least I managed to capture the other one. Only the queen is left, but with some gigaspheres, I eventually managed to make her my pal too. I fly up the mountain again to get a better view, then continue making my way towards the tower. Near the mountain, I grab some effigies, but then it gets really cold, which constantly damages me. I almost die from the cold before gliding away, but then I run out of stamina and fall to my death. After respawning at base, I sleep through the night. The next morning, I craft cold-resistant metal armor, then travel back to the Verdant Brook. I fly up the cliffs to the Frostbound Mountains, collecting more effigies on the way. Finally, I reach the mountaintop and discover the free PAL Alliance Tower in the middle of a frozen lake. After activating the nearby fast travel point, I fight and capture some Swees. Then a Sweepa joins the battle, so I finish capturing the Swees before trying to capture the Sweepa too. It escapes several spheres, but the last sphere that I throw before dying actually captures him. I unlock the weapon line factory and build it, allowing me to upgrade my base. Now that I've unlocked the maximum amount of pals I can put to work, I build a tomato plantation, then end the night. The next day, I fast travel back to the free PAL Alliance Tower and capture a Raindrix. Then I find a castaway's journal explaining how he also found this tower and noticed an energy similar to Palsium ore floating inside. When he entered, he was teleported to someone with a massive pal and ran for his life. After capturing a Foxicle, I enter the tower to find a silver-haired girl called down a massive flower pal. After cuddling, Lily glares at me before attacking me with Lylene. Just one of her attacks destroys my entire shield, but with my Inferno attack, I manage to burn her. She switches up her attacks a lot, attacking with bubbles and spinning vines that slow me down. While I try to switch pals, Lylene's bubbles destroy Garo, so I fight with Elphadran instead. But since Elphadran isn't doing enough damage, I switch to Ozarobe, then blast Lylene's head with dragon cannons and my handgun. Now we're doing good damage and start catching up on time, but it's still a tight race. As the final minute closes in, I land several headshots, finishing Lily and Lylene off. Victorious, I savor the view from the top of the tower. Then I return to base to let Garo recover and build a witch cauldron to help with medicine production. With that done, I teleport all the way back to the fort ruins and head east to find a beach area, then eventually reach Marsh Island. Here, I find a fast travel point along with a ruby that I catch. Nearby, I find a sealed realm and enter to find a Catras that I quickly damage and capture. While exploring the island, I also catch a Nightwing, Rushor, Gumos, Ruby, and Liftmonk. Suddenly, I find a Mammoris and spam them down before catching them and reaching level 34. Nearby, I fly up a cliff, then see a fast travel point and jump down to unlock it. I find a survivor close by who tells me that he was attacked by wild pals before giving me survival tips and Paldium fragments. Using the fast travel statue, I return to my base and craft an improved furnace, letting me make refined ingots. Since I need lots of ore, I return to the desolate church and build a second base near the ore rocks. After assigning several pals to work, I'm suddenly raided by pal protectors. Thankfully, I easily wipe them out with Garo's moves before they reach my base. Victorious, I build a chest to store ore and a feed box to keep my pals fed. Then I assign more Kataivas to mine, along with Gory Rats to transport the ore to the chest. But when I return later, I realize my pals focused on logging instead of mining. I clean up their mess, then put all the pals away before returning to my main base to process some ore into refined ingots. After mining more ore, I sleep through the night, then pick up my refined ingots the next day. With those ingots, I craft a refined metal pickaxe, then fast travel back to Marsh Island. I catch some Nightwings, then explore towards the center of this island. After catching 2 Gumos, I reach level 35, then clear out a Syndicate hideout and free a Pangolin. Eventually, I find the island shore and follow it until I reach a fast travel point. From there, I head north up a path and find the Alpha Mossanda Lux. I throw out my Ozarobe, then start blasting the Mossanda Lux with bubbles and dragon cannons. While constantly pushing the Alpha back, I easily capture a Dire Howl. After a couple of failed captures, I finally manage to catch the Electric Panda and add it to my collection. Victorious, I start chasing down a Tansy before beating them down and catching them. Beyond some Ribbunnies, I find a wandering merchant selling some new skill fruits. I sell him some of my valuables, then buy an Acid Rain fruit and teach this skill to my Ozarobe. After exploring more, I eventually find a desert runaway who complains about not being able to tame pals, then gives me some Paldium fragments. I activate the nearby fast travel point, then teleport back to my main base. After storing my loot, I make some polymers to craft a single shot rifle. Next, I fast travel back to the bridge of the Twin Knights, but this time I jump in the water and cross the lake to reach the other shore. Immediately, I run into Syndicate syndicate thugs and deal with them before finding a field of purple flowers along with the Kelpsie who I capture for the first time. After finishing off the syndicate thugs, I free a Jolthog Christ from their cage, then cross the flower field and capture a grazing Woollypop on the way. Finally, I grab the fast travel point and reach the entrance to Bamboo Grove. From here, I spot a new flying pal, the Vanworm, who I easily capture with a single Megasphere. I climb over the hills of the grove, then discover a Mazzarina grazing who I quickly add to my pal box. Nearby, I find a Broncherry and capture it too. After following the path to another fast travel spot, I reach the sealed realm of the Swordmaster. I enter and am immediately attacked by the Bushi. It quickly damages me with fire, grass, and ice attacks, but Ozarobe and I quickly lower its health, then capture it. Back outside, I use Elphadran to fly over to the island to the south, leading me to the Sea Breeze Archipelago. After grabbing an effigy, I see a new boss pal. I immediately challenge the Univolt, who blasts me with electricity. After spamming Dragon Cannon again and again, I activate Acid Rain, but then the Univolt runs away. I chase after it before bringing it low enough and capturing it. Victorious, I climb up a nearby cliff to find a fast travel point along with a broken down church. After more exploration, I reach the beach and an Alpha Gumas who I easily damage and capture. Then I return to the church and teleport back to base to stash away my loot. With that done, I teleport to the small settlement, then fly up a cliff using my Elphadran to reach a plateau with the Syndicate hideout on top. I free the trapped Lift Monk, then explore a forest with orange leaf trees. I follow the path up the mountain, catching an Incineram and Lee's Punk on the way. Once I reach the top, I spot more of the missing towers along with some kind of rocky island in the ocean. I fly back down, then mount my Ozarobe to cross the ocean towards this mysterious island. Almost there, I climb onto a pillar and open a chest with a defense pendant inside. Then I fly to the island, but am immediately warned about criminal behavior. I see lots of bones and dead trees here, but also collect a beautiful flower. On some bones is an Eikthyrdr Terra, and after a few tries, I manage to capture it. After finding some PIDF guards, I approach them only to be immediately attacked for trespassing. At first, I swim away, but then I decide to ignore them and come back for the rare pals. Immediately, I find a Grizzbolt and quickly damage it, then capture it. Afterwards, I catch more Eikthyrdr Terra, then capture a royal-looking penguin, the Panking. While climbing up a slope, I suddenly realize that this is a sanctuary for wild pals. On some nearby rocks, I find another chest which has a book that gives me tech points. After gliding back down, I mine some coal while ignoring the shooting guards. Nearby is a Valet that I quickly damage and capture. Eventually, I leave the sanctuary island, but the guards keep chasing me. Once I reach a tropical island, I start dragon cannoning the guards down, and eventually they leave me alone. Now at peace, I fast travel back to my main base and replace my old miners with the Pankings. Then I sleep to start a new day before crafting the Giga Grappling Gun. Next, I upgrade my primitive furnaces to improved furnaces and build a lettuce plantation. Afterwards, I swim back to the sanctuary island and capture more Pankings for my base, reaching level 39. Then I fly up and build a pal box next to the coal rocks for easy fast travel to coal mining. After returning to base, I craft the Hellzephyr saddle, then try out the pal's flight and attacks. Next, I teleport to the Sea Breeze Archipelago and explore the island while riding my Hellzephyr. I approach a new sealed realm and enter to challenge the Lunaris inside. Grizzbolt deals fantastic damage with its thunder attacks, even stunning the Lunaris. After a quick fight, I capture the new pal and leave the sealed realm. I keep flying west, then find an Alpha Broncherry who I challenge with my Hellzephyr. After several flare storms, I easily capture them. Afterwards, I fly up a cliff and discover an Alpha Sweepa, then immediately take out its Sweep minions with some fire attacks. With just a few more attacks, I easily capture their leader. Victorious, I explore further and find a Poison Blast skill berry on the ground, which I immediately teach to Hellzephyr. From here, I head to the beach, then notice a tower in the distance before flying towards its island. But once I reach Mount Obsidian, I start taking heat damage, so I keep to the shore to avoid burning alive. While following this path, I eventually reach another Twin Night Gate with a fast travel point right next to it that I activate. I fly through the gate, then battle a Vanworm and manage to capture it along with a Reptaro. Night falls and I find yet another new pal, Blazehowl Noct, who attacks with dark homing balls and lava eruptions. It's extremely hard to catch, but despite the low capture rate, I managed to add one to my pal collection. Victorious, I fast travel back to base and immediately put some of my new fire pals to work before going to bed. I start a rifle ammo craft for my pals to finish, then travel back to Mount Obsidian obsidian. From here, I fly west on a path that leads along the mountain but avoids the hot zone. Suddenly, I discover some kelp sea ignis and catch one before chasing down and catching another. That night, I find a pirate knocked near the beach and headshot it before failing catch after catch until a successful capture. At the beach's end, I fly up for a nice view of the big tree before landing on some grass. Nearby are some sleeping flambells that I shoot and capture to reach level 40. After unlocking heat-resistant refined metal armor, the Giga Glider, and Grisbolt's minigun, I fly back to collect scorching eggs and liftmunk effigies before reaching the fast travel point. Once I'm home, I put the scorching eggs in the incubators, then craft Grisbolt's minigun. Immediately, I leave my base to test the minigun on a Mammoris, dealing massive damage. Back at base, I craft the heat-resistant refined metal armor and wear it. Afterwards, I craft the Giga Glider, more rifle ammo, and a refined metal axe. With all that done, I quickly travel to the settlement's merchant to sell my old gear. I hatch one of my large scorching eggs and a Ragnahawk comes out. After checking it out and sleeping through the night, I'm suddenly raided by flying hyena pals. The raiders try to fly over my walls but somehow get stuck anyway, so I snipe them down with Azurub's dragon cannon. Victorious, I head back to craft the Ragnahawk saddle, then immediately try them out and see that they're faster. With that done, I teleport to the Mount Obsidian entrance, then lovingly pet my pals to encourage them for the fights ahead. While riding my Ragnahawk, I fly deeper inside, then challenge some bandworms with my Azurub, easily catching both. I also capture Reptero, but then the pal sphere just stays on the ground. Immediately, I return to base and realize that my pal box is full. Right away, I rush over to the abandoned mine shaft and talk to the black marketeer inside to sell off my enslaved humans and extra pals to make space. Once I'm done, I leave the mine shaft to find and pick up the captured pals I previously didn't have space for. As night falls, I make sure to grab all the liftmunk effigies that I find on the way. Eventually, I'm back at Bamboo Grove, where I now discover the sealed realm of the Thunder Dragon. Inside, I find a very gluttonous dragon, the Relaxaurus Lux. I first unload Grisbolt's minigun into the Alpha to soften him up, then switch to Ragnahawk to help me keep my distance. But suddenly, I get stuck on a rock before the Alpha's lightning streak stuns and nearly kills me. I barely manage to escape, then keep flying in circles while recharging my shield before shooting the Alpha with my rifle. Once it's low enough, I throw a pal sphere and manage to capture it first try. Victorious, I head back to base to put the new pal in my team, then travel to the Relaxaurus area to rub its belly. After flying towards a mountain range and crossing a river, I find a fast travel point. While checking below, I find a mine shaft hidden behind a waterfall. I head through the tunnel and reach a large cave with a Fanglope inside. Unloading Grisbolt's minigun drops the Fanglope to half health, then I switch to electric attacks while getting bombarded by acid rain. Unfortunately, my capture fails, then Grisbolt accidentally kills it. Disappointed, I fly out of the cave, then head back to Mount Obsidian. Near the beach, I find a huge scorching egg and immediately return to base to put it in the incubator. After sleeping through the night, I fast travel back to Mount Obsidian, then head inside. With my Azurub, I challenge a Reptero and whittle them down for an easy capture. I then chase down and attack two Pyrans, eventually manage to capture them one by one. I explore the burnt-looking area, then run into some Wixen who I greet with acid rain. Sadly, I accidentally kill the first one, but I'm eventually able to catch the second. I keep progressing up the slope of the mountain when suddenly some brothers of the Eternal Pyre Soul attack me with flamethrowers. I quickly kill them all, then keep climbing, grabbing a huge dragon egg on the way before reaching a massive magma lake. Luckily, I can just fly over it, then proceed to activate a nearby fast travel point. Now I fly straight up the side of the mountain while periodically resting at the sides to regain stamina. Finally, I reach the top of the mountain and discover the brothers of the Eternal Pyre Tower. After activating the nearby fast travel point, I fly down into the volcanic crater to grab an effigy. I find a new pal here, Gopfin Ignis, and soften it up before capturing it. After feeding my pals, I approach the tower and enter inside, then find some kind of rapper. He summons his electric pal, Orzurk, then reveals himself as Axel before throwing a lightning trident at me. I fight back with Grisbolt's minigun, but it barely puts a dent in Orzurk's 130,000 health pool. Switching to Azurub or Relaxaurus Lux doesn't help because neither are strong against lightning or dragon types. Since my damage is way too low to win in 10 minutes, I give up and ultimately fall to Orzurk's attacks. Back at base, I learned that dragon and lightning are weak to ice and ground before going to sleep. The next morning, I assigned some Repteros to refine lots of ingots. Afterwards, I fast traveled to the ore base and set up a feed box. Since Repteros have level 3 mining and can't chop trees, I assigned them here to focus on mining ore. I then add a Hellzephyr and Vanworm as transporters to move the mined ore to the chest. Lastly, I craft nails and cloth to build build some fluffy pal beds for them. With that done, I fast travel to the Sanctuary Island base and assign a Reptaro here too, along with the Ragnarok for transportation. I supply them with their own feed box as well as 2 beds. While finishing up, I'm suddenly raided by ferocious wild pals. Luckily, they can't get up here and instead get stuck against a wall, so I easily dragon cannon the group down. After returning to base, I hatch a huge Scorching Egg to get a Blaze Howl knocked, then the huge Dragon Egg to get a Yormantide Ignis. Since the Ignis has level 4 kindling, I immediately assign him to base before giving him loving pets. I then fast travel to the bamboo groves and capture a few Relaxauruses, leveling me up to 42. Suddenly I hear the sweet rare pal chime and fly up to find a sparkling rare Relaxaurus. Afraid of killing the shiny, I carefully damage it with pal attacks and rifle shots while avoiding its attacks. But then I accidentally dragon cannon it off the cliff and it falls to its death. While staring at its body in disbelief, I watch the other Relaxauruses casually numb his corpse. That night, I reach the same waterfall from before and head inside. Again, I challenge the Fanglobe, this time being more careful not to kill it. Griswold's minigun deals most of the damage, then Ragnarok adds a bit more, after which I capture the Fanglobe. After leaving the mine shaft and flying around a bit, I stop by a Syndicate hideout and clear it out. A bit further in, I find an Arsox who is a completely new pal for my collection. From there, I head to the next fast travel point near some patches of bamboo. Here, I discover a sealed realm which contains the Winged Tyrant. I head inside to find a very fluffy dragon. After showering the Quiverton bullets, I carefully bring it low enough to easily capture with a single sphere. Near the exit, I find another castaway's journal. The castaway found a massive pal statue and wonders why the ancient humans would build this, suggesting that some pals were significant enough to worship. Now I return to base and unlock Yormantide Ignis' saddle before crafting it and trying out the mount's attacks. Next, I craft all the materials needed to make a pump-action shotgun. With that done, I also craft some shotgun shells, but to make more, I'll need a lot of charcoal. So I start a 1,000 charcoal refining task, then watch in amazement as my Yormantide Ignis processes it insanely fast. While that's processing, I travel back to the bamboo area, then fly towards the nearby beach. On the way, I grab some effigies before catching some Dumoots and a Toko Toko. Another Toko Toko charges at me while flashing, but I manage to jump just out of reach of its self-destruct, then capture its friends. That night, I kill a Digtoise and spot a Lovander casually taking a walk at the beach. I shoot down its health and capture it, thankfully avoiding its debauchery. After catching a Digtoise, I cross the ocean and try to fly to the big tree in the distance. Once I'm close enough to see land, I suddenly hit some kind of invisible wall that stops me from reaching the island. From here, the closest landmass is the snowy island to the east, and there's a tower on it too. So I fly up to reach the snowy peaks and immediately pass by pal genetic researchers. I discover a new pal, the Cryolinks, along with a Memorist Chris, but their high levels would make capturing difficult, so I leave them be. Flying over a frozen lake, I collect a few items while avoiding most fights. After flying across frozen ravines and massive bones, I find a fast travel point and activate it. Then I soar over some pillars to reach the highest peak and discover the PAL Genetic Research Tower before activating the nearby fast travel point and teleporting back to base. After restocking on ammo, I head back to the Genetic Research Tower and get a really nice view while flying towards the desert. On the way, I land to check out a new rock type which turns out to be pure quartz. Immediately, I mine all the quartz rocks, then mark the location on my map so I can return for more later. With that, I continue my journey to the desert. Once I arrive, I start taking cold damage again, but press onto some kind of castle in the distance. The structure turns out to be the dune shelter, and I activate the fast travel point next to it. Instead of exploring the shelter, I leave to fly over the dunes and reach the tower. Once there, I activate the nearby fast travel point and head back to base. Now that I'm home, I quickly sleep through the night, then use my new quartz to craft some circuit boards. Thanks to those circuits, I'm able to replace my production line factory with a longer, improved version. With that, I'm able to make a hyper shield along with even more circuit boards to also upgrade my sphere line factory. Finally, I hatch a large frozen egg and get an ice Reptaro, which seems to be good at mining and cooling. It's also ground and ice type, which counters Orzerk's lightning and dragon types, so I add the ice Reptaro to my team, then build an electric kitchen to make cooking even more efficient. With that done, I head back to Mount Obsidian and find a rare Reptaro, but it's level 50, so I leave it be. I catch a regular Reptaro instead before capturing more Pyrans, a Wixen, and a Blaze Howl knocked. Afterwards, I leave for the desert to find new pals and discover a Dazi. I quickly capture it, then use my ice Reptaro to soften up Rayhounds for more captures. While exploring, I notice a black marketeer near the dune shelter and check out the pals he sells. I buy a Mao Christ and a Mao before fast traveling back to base. Once there, I hatch a Vanworm, then teach Stone Cannon to my ice Reptaro. With With that done, I fast travel back to the volcano and catch more pals while riding my Ozarobe. Capturing the 10th Reptaro levels up my Ice Reptaro to 30, letting it learn its unique move, Frost Burst. Now that the Ice Reptaro is ready, I return to base and cook some salad, which lets me deal more damage, but also take more damage too. The next morning, I teleport back to the Brotherhood's tower and eat the salad before entering the tower to rematch Axel and Orzerk. First, I unload Grisbold's minigun, then bring in Ice Reptaro to freeze the boss, which holds him still for huge shotgun damage. I'm struggling to get good hits in while Orzerk is focusing me until another freeze lets me reload and land several headshots. Orzerk keeps chasing and pressuring me, making it hard to regenerate my shield while he blasts me with Dragon Breath. I dodge as much as I can, but then he lands a massive lightning attack which stuns me and almost kills me. I really need Ice Reptaro to distract the boss so I can heal, but then he dies to Orzerk's lightning. Immediately I throw out Yormantide Ignis, who quickly sets Orzerk on fire, dealing really good damage. Meanwhile, I keep squeezing in as much damage as possible while trying to dodge Orzerk's attacks. Luckily, Yormantide keeps him burning, constantly draining his health. But then Orzerk throws his trident, stunning Yormantide Ignis and almost killing him. So I swap him out for Grisbold to unload another minigun. Since Yormantide Ignis is still low, I switch in Ragnarok, who also burns the boss. After Orzerk's Dragon Burst wipes my shield, I throw out Yormantide Ignis and stay back to regen my shield since we're doing enough damage for me to play it safe. Finally, I swap in Grisbold and unload every last bullet into Orzerk before switching to my shotgun and finishing him off. Victorious, I savor the view from the top of the tower. Back at base, I craft some carbon fibers and cement, then use those materials to make Ultra Spheres. Since I need a better water pal, I teleport back to the Bamboo Grove and fly towards the lake to challenge the Alpha Yormantide. Grisbold's lightning stuns the Yormantide, then its minigun does lots of damage, but the Yormantide's water cannon destroys my shield. I jump onto Ragnarok and keep my distance to regen my shield, then attack with fiery shotgun shots. Once it's low, I throw my precious Ultra Spheres and eventually manage to capture it. Victorious, I head to base and check Yormantide out, then craft its saddle before boosting the pal by offering some pal souls at the Statue of Power. Afterwards, I process some of my pal oil into polymer that I then use to craft some circuit boards. With that, I can build my first electric furnace, allowing me to refine a completely new type of ingot, pal metal. Once 5 pal metal ingots are finished, I use them to craft a legendary pal sphere. Then I fast travel back to the Bamboo Groves and head north, where I happen to find one of Zoe's diary entries. In it, she wonders why she needs to guard this tower as her father did, even though it houses some kind of great power. Next, I slaughter the local Mammoths for their precious pal oil before heading to the beach and continuing onwards to the Twilight Dunes. Immediately, I notice some Syndicate scum targeting a pal merchant, so I quickly interfere and kill the attackers. Then I talk to the Grateful Merchant and buy a Jolt Hog and a Loot Bond. Afterwards, I use my Yormantide Ignis's new Fireball attack to annihilate more Syndicate criminals before wiping out their entire hideout. While exploring further, I discover a massive pal statue, but then start freezing since the dunes get cold at night. Since it is night though, I'm able to find a loot moon and capture it to reach level 46. To escape the cold, I fly east to a nearby island and reach the Moonless Shore. While exploring, I happen to find Lily Everhart's first diary entry, but after I open it, pal protectors keep interrupting my reading, so I fast travel back to base to peacefully read her diary there. Lily praises pals for their skills and looks before calling humans savage animals for enslaving the pals and eating them. With that done, I upgrade my old furnaces to electric ones. After grabbing some pal metal ingots and high quality cloth, I craft the glorious pal metal armor and equip it right away. Next, I use the assault rifle schematic 1 to craft an uncommon assault rifle before making ammo for it too. With that done, I head back to the Twilight Dunes and notice a new boss pal, Anubis. I start the fight with Yormantide's Aqua Burst and Hydro Laser before switching to Ragnarok for more speed. While trying to shoot at the dodgy Anubis, I do my best to avoid its projectiles. Then I manage to avoid a jump attack and keep shooting until I run out of ammo. After I try a legendary sphere, Anubis breaks out, but Yormantide helps me lower its health further. Sadly, even while trying all 4 of my remaining legendary spheres, Anubis keeps escaping. I try throwing weaker Ultra Spheres instead and eventually manage to capture it. After wasting so many resources on this fight, I try rushing to the nearest fast travel point, but end up burning to death from the desert's heat. Back at base, I craft new legendary spheres and more ammo, along with some ultra spheres and mega spheres, before leaving to test Anubis' power on the boss Memorist. Using the Memorist oil, I craft polymer and circuit boards that I then use to build an electric medicine bench. In it, I noticed the memory wipe medicine craft that can reset my stat points. For now, I start a high-grade medicine craft and put a Catras to work at the medicine bench. With one of the syringes finished, I inject my Reptero with the antidepressants, immediately making it much happier. After making even more polymer, I'm finally able to craft a missile launcher for my Relaxaurus. With that done, I fast travel back to the desiccated desert, then head to the PIDF tower. Once inside, I'm approached by the PIDF officer who casually throws out money before summoning his Firebird Phalaris. Immediately, I jump onto my Relaxaurus and shower Marcus and his pal with homing missiles, causing blinding explosions. Then I throw out Yormintide, whose Hydro Laser counters the Fire Pal for fantastic damage. My assault rifle deals good damage too, but soon Phalaris destroys my shield with a deadly electric attack. Thankfully, Yormintide manages to distract the boss by firing another laser, which gives time for my shield to recharge. But then Yormintide almost dies, so I throw out Relaxaurus instead. Marcus just won't let me breathe, firing yet another electric laser at me before following up with a giant fireball and a double fire tornado into a barreling charge. Even worse, I get stuck against a pillar and eat another lightning laser attack, nearly losing my shield. I take a risk and throw out my low HP Yormintide again to deal more damage before switching him out just in time to avoid a lethal lightning attack. I keep carefully dodging and shooting, but then get hit by fire and start burning. I risk my Yormintide again, but this time he dies to Phalaris' lightning. With my Relaxaurus back on the field and the boss down to very low health, I keep dodging and unloading my bullets until the fiery duo is slain. After my celebratory spin, I reach the top of the tower and savor my victory. Then I fast travel back to base and enjoy some well-earned sleep. The next morning, I feed my Mossanda high-quality meds to cure its depression. Suddenly, I get raided by ferocious wild pals. I wait until they gather at my walls, then charge up and fire my Hydro Laser. But then they attack my gate and set it on fire, so I quickly finish them off, but the fire keeps spreading. My Penking spray water jets to try putting out the fire, but eventually start burning while getting stuck on the walls. Since the fire won't stop spreading, I deconstruct the wooden walls to at least get the materials back. Then I build stone walls instead before getting raided just as I'm finishing. I quickly place the final walls before throwing out Yormintide and Hydro Lasering the raiders. Afterwards, I head to my sanctuary base to mine some ore, then replace my dead Reptero with the Dig Toys. Next, I visit my other base near the church and replace these Repteros with Dig Toys as well to mine even faster. But then while sorting my PAL box, I suddenly get raided by the rampaging fangirls, which is an army of Lovanders. Thankfully, I'm able to kill most of them before they reach my pals, but one manages to slip through. It's no match for my pals though, who quickly defeat it before getting back to work. Back at my main base, I replace my Greyhound with a Relaxaurus Lux to produce more electricity. Next, I make some polymer and refined ingots, then use them to craft a Relaxaurus Lux missile launcher. Eager to try it, I head out and hop into my Relaxaurus Lux before unleashing a devastating barrage of missiles onto the poor low-level pals nearby. Satisfied, I reward my Relaxaurus Lux with some belly rubs. I then start crafting assault rifle ammo and leave my pals to finish it before teleporting to the northwest Forgotten Island. Once there, I notice another sanctuary to the southwest and fly over to explore it. Immediately, I find and catch a war sect, then capture a completely new pal, the Wumpa-Botan. Afterwards, I discover Lily's 4th diary entry where she mentions the sanctuaries along with hiring the PIDF to protect the unique pals who live there. After capturing a Yormintide Ignis, I also find a Menacing nearby and damage it, then waste a ridiculous amount of spheres before finally capturing it. But before I can leave, I suddenly discover a rare, sparkling Yormintide Ignis. With only 6 legendary balls left, I decide to try my luck and Hydro Laser the sleeping Leviathan awake. I do my best to avoid the Ignis' attacks while bombarding it with water blasts, but eventually my Yormintide goes down. Immediately I throw out my Ragnarok and ride around while carefully shooting the Ignis down to minimum health. I almost accidentally alert some PIDF guards and quickly back off, but then the Yormintide Ignis leaves and goes to sleep. I shoot the Ignis to prevent its reset, then throw a legendary sphere, but it breaks free. After stunning the Ignis, I throw another sphere before falling into the ocean. While struggling to get back up, I actually managed to capture the mighty Fire Leviathan. Immediately, I rush back to base and suck all the PAL souls out of my previous Yormintide Ignis before funneling them into my new rare one to strengthen it. I then put my rare Yormintide Ignis into the PAL condenser before stuffing my other Ignises inside side and sacrificing them to enhance the stats of my lucky one. With that done, I fast travel to the eastern wild island, then fly over the ocean to the desert. Near the shore, I find some daisies and capture one. Just a bit further, I find a new pal, the Suzaku, then carefully damage it before stunning it with my baton and capturing it. While capturing a Dinosaur Lux and battling another Suzaku, I reach level 48. After capturing that Suzaku and killing another, I fly along the desert's eastern edge, then discover Robin Quiltera, who I then capture. While struggling to capture a Dinosaur Lux, I start freezing from the night, so I switch to my cold-resistant underwear. The next morning, I find some beacons and capture the first two before accidentally killing the last. Afterwards, I notice another sanctuary to the north, so I fly over the ocean to check it out. Once there, I challenge a Blazamut and circle him before he quickly destroys my shield with a fireball. But then my Ormantide Ignis shoots its own fireball, nearly killing the Blazamut. Immediately, I put my Ignis away, then stun the Blazamut with my baton before capturing it. Afterwards, I try catching an Incineram Noct, but it escapes again and again until I kill it out of frustration, then leave. Back at base, I unlock and craft heat-resistant Palmetal armor, which also raises my defense. With that done, I fast travel to the Astral Mountains, then fly down the slope and into the valley, discovering the Forgotten Mineshaft. Inside, I find an Ice King P.A.K.K.A. and bombard it with Yormantide's fire attacks until it's an easy stun and capture. I then leave to fly up to the mountaintop, and once there, I kill a Mammoth Chris, then drop down towards the frozen lake before challenging Frostallion, the legendary steed of ice. Yormantide Ignis's fire counters the icy Frostallion, but he's too big to dodge Frostallion's blizzard spike and nearly dies, so I quickly switch back to Ragnahawk. Frostallion then charges into me, destroying my shield and freezing me, so I carefully stay back while spitting poison and fire. After I dodge their next charge, Frostallion launches yet another blizzard spike that I barely avoid by flying up. Even though I dodge most of Frostallion's attacks, their weaker homing attacks keep chipping away at Ragnahawk's health. Ragnahawk's HP is getting low, but thankfully so is Frostallion's. But then Frostallion charges into us, killing my Ragnahawk. I quickly dodge an ice spike, then throw out my Yormantide Ignis before attacking with them to damage the boss just a bit more. Once Frostallion is low enough, I quickly call back my Yormantide Ignis, then throw a sphere before being immediately frozen. Frostallion escapes, but I throw ball after ball after ball until finally I manage to capture the guardian deity of Palpagos Island. Without Ragnahawk, I helplessly freeze to death before respawning at base to check out the Frostallion and craft its saddle. Immediately, I teleport to the desert and mount the Frostallion before charging into Serpenteras and blizzard spiking Digtoises. Nearby, I discover not one, but two more legendary pals, Palladius and Necromus. Immediately, I attack them with a blizzard spike, freezing them both, then charge in with my crystal wings. Suddenly, I realize that Frostallion's high stamina pool allows me to stay high in the air while attacking, avoiding many of the legendary duo's attacks. This strategy lets me safely rain down blizzard spikes before coming back down to regenerate stamina as needed. Suddenly, Frostallion gets hungry, so I switch them out for Ragnahawk, but I'm immediately punished by the duo's lasers. I quickly switch back to Frostallion and fly high up to safely regenerate my shield. But then Frostallion gets hungry again. This time, instead of switching to Ragnahawk, I stay high on Frostallion and open my inventory to feed it myself. After a few more attacks, Palladius' health drops below 1,000. I carefully switch to Ragnahawk to poison Palladius before throwing my balls, but he escapes capture after capture, until Necromus charges into me, killing Ragnahawk. Immediately, I hop back onto Frostallion and take to the skies to regenerate my shield before carefully shooting Palladius down to 80 HP. After trying sphere after sphere again, I finally get Palladius to submit, capturing the Holy Knight. Now with only Necromus left, I very comfortably avoid its attacks while gradually dropping its HP to 70. Then I throw a sphere and hop off my Frostallion to smack and stun the escaped Necromus before throwing another ball and capturing it. Immediately, I head back to base and check the pair out, learning that they used to be one but got separated into opposite emotions. While enhancing my Palladius and Frostallion with Pal Souls, I'm suddenly raided by Syndicate thugs. Just one charge destroys most of them before a Blizzard Spike finishes the rest. The next day, I'm immediately raided by a Toko Toko self-destruct unit. Luckily, it's just two of them that I easily destroy with a single Blizzard Spike. Afterwards, I use all the effigies I collected to upgrade my capture power to the max. Then I use skill fruits to teach my Frostallion Spirit Fire and Poison Blast. After switching to the new moves, I had to mount Obsidian, then fly over the peak before suddenly realizing that there's a whole other side to explore. Curious, I travel downwards and explore some lava lakes. After annihilating some Pyre Brothers with an icy charge, I suddenly suddenly stand in front of Jetragon, the legendary celestial dragon. Immediately I fire a blizzard spike before freezing him with crystal wing. The dragon fights back with homing lasers and a fireball, forcing me to back away to get my shield back. Once I recover, I rain down another blizzard spike, freezing him again. The speedy dragon chases me down, but luckily gets stuck in a tree, giving me some time to shoot him for free. But then he backs off into the air before somehow taking heavy fall damage. Suddenly, the Jetragon lands another fireball which destroys my shield, but thankfully he gets stuck in a crater so I can feed my Frostallion and myself. But then he teleports away, so I quickly shoot him to stop his reset, then poison him before throwing a ball. He escapes, then the poison nearly kills him before I can try again, but thankfully the poison wears off. He breaks out again and again until finally on my 9th legendary sphere, I manage to capture him. Immediately I check his PAL deck entry to see that he can fire a missile attack while mounted, but I need to be level 50 to craft the saddle. So I keep exploring and capturing pals for XP before finding a fast travel point and continuing along the beach. Eventually I discover Fisherman's Point and activate the fast travel before finding a merchant who sells bullets. After exploring the rest of the beach, I head up the slope of the mountain to find yet another fast travel point. Nearby, I happen to find the Castaway's Journal Day 29 entry. He explains how he used an inscription found in some ruins to build the PAL box, making it easy to store and send pals. I then fly up the mountain again and discover some stairs leading up to some kind of oasis with a massive Anubis statue in the middle. After harvesting a nearby skill fruit tree, I shoot at a stuck Ragnahawk, then capture it, raising me to max level. Immediately I unlock Jetragon's missile launcher before fast traveling back to base and making the circuit boards to craft the Jetragon missile launcher. After crafting the cold resistant PAL metal armor too, I sleep through the night, then give my Jetragon loving pets before soaring at max speed. Then I fire its aerial missiles, which absolutely destroy some Tansies. Finally, I try out Jetty's Dragon Meteor, which somehow completely misses a T-font, but the homing beam comet does the trick. Satisfied, I immediately return to base to enhance the Jetragon with PAL souls and to teach them Dragon Cannon. Thanks to Jetragon's speed, exploring the map is now much easier, and I immediately find Zoe's first diary. Apparently, she doesn't have a family and was instead raised by the Syndicate because her father is one of their bosses. Next, I zoom over the volcano, then find the Castaway's Journal Day 25 entry. Apparently, pals breed simply by having a male and female nearby, with the eggs suddenly magically appearing. On top of that, when pals die, their bodies just vanish. From there, I fly up high to explore around the volcano. Suddenly, I find Axel Traverse's first diary entry rapping about how he wants a worthy battle. Near the mountain range, I find a fast travel point and activate it before heading back to base and going to sleep. The next morning, I fast travel back to Mount Obsidian and explore more before finding the Castaway Journal's Day 0 entry. He found the island shrouded by fog and tried to steer away, but was suddenly attacked before ending up shipwrecked onto the island. With that, I head to the Astral Mountains and fly over some ruins, then find Victor Ashford's second diary entry. He experimented with liquefying a PAL, then concentrating that before injecting it into a PAL of the same species to make it stronger. With the map mostly explored, I head back to base and craft the rocket launcher. Immediately, I test it against my Pangolin dummy, but the splash damage destroys several of my base structures. I quickly put the rocket launcher away, then leave for the Astral Mountains. Once there, I head inside the PAL Genetic Research Tower to face Victor, who steps towards me and levitates before summoning his pal Shadowbeak and mounting him. I lead with Jetragon, who immediately unleashes its legendary dragon attacks to exploit the dark Shadowbeak's weakness and burn them. Then I hop onto Jetty to release a powerful missile barrage dealing massive damage. Next, I throw out Frostallion, who immediately freezes them before charging in. Finally, I send out Palladius, who fires their laser before Necromus unleashes their own. Now Jetragon pummels the duo with dragon attacks again while I unload my assault rifle into Shadowbeak's face. Our combos bring the duo's HP below half while we still have over 6 minutes left. Once Jetragon's ultimate is ready again, I immediately hop on and bombard the duo with every last missile. Then I switch to Frostallion, who manages to poison Shadowbeak for extra damage. Things are looking good until Shadowbeak blizzard spikes me and destroys my shield. But with Jetty's dragon attacks and my assault rifle shots, we push through and defeat the final boss. Victorious, I claim the final tower and then give my precious Jetragon a lot of loving pets to show how proud I am of my cute dragon god.